Greetings, everyone, to the latest episode of the podcast. And today we have Emma Slade, also known as Pema Deki. And so I will begin with a brief introduction and then we can continue with the session. So, Emma Slade Pema Deki is a Buddhist nun from Whitstable, Kent, in England. She is the founder of the charity Opening Your Heart to Bhutan, which focuses on helping special needs children in Bhutan. As an author, Emma has also released the book Set Free, which garnered international popularity for her transformative series of life journeys depicting her roles from financial analyst, yoga teacher, mother, charity founder, and Buddhist nun. She has also received several awards in her lifetime, including Point of Light by the UK Prime Minister, and is featured as a keynote speaker on platforms such as TEDx. Emma is the first British woman to be ordained as a Buddhist nun in Bhutan, and she continues her journey on the Buddhist path while overlooking her responsibilities in England, Bhutan, and all across the world. So, Emma Slade, welcome.
Okay. Now I feel like I need a rest.
Thank you for joining all of us. And did I miss anything out of your comprehensive?
No. I think it's fine. Yeah.
Okay, so getting straight into it, and Emma has just come out of retreat. She has been so ever so kind to join us on this episode. She has written a book called Set Free, a life-changing journey from banking to Buddhism in Bhutan. You can see this book here. It's also available on the website. And she's also the founder of Opening Your Heart to Bhutan. Here is the card for that. So, yes, and she has. I remember getting this from her in Whitstable in England, and she has written a nice note here as well. So, yeah, thank you so much. I know this book came out in 2017, so a couple of years now.
I think like nearly 4 years.
Yes.
It's 2021, right? I think we've forgotten. It's like 2020 was like a blur, and now we're in 2021, isn't it?
Yes, definitely. So, yeah, before we move into having this discussion and interview with Emma, I would like to mention 3 scenarios where I've actually physically encountered and meeting Emma. So, for some years between 2013 to 2018, I was a student in England, particularly at the University of Kent. And once a month, I would go up to Whitstable, which is a bus journey from Canterbury, where my university was at. And I would just take the weekend off, Sunday, and go to the beach by Whitstable. And on one of my journeys in the bus, I actually got off the bus, the first stop, and I think there was a Starbucks. There was a coffee joint, Starbucks. And I was already a Dharma practitioner then, and I saw Emma. I saw Pema Deki in the Starbucks with a young boy, and she was in full robes, and she was having a coffee. I felt this. There was this inclination. I was so close to just going in and just speaking, having a conversation, because to find Dharma practitioners, Sangha members in Kent, I'm sure there are a few groups, but sometimes you feel an inclination. But I didn't, because she had company, and I didn't want to spoil the moment and the time. And if our path came across someday, then it's meant to be. So that was the first scenario. And in the second scenario, actually, I attended a yoga workshop by Emma Epton at Whitstable Umbrella Center. And I think after the session, there was a cafe at the center, and she was there
with a coffee. You see the theme.
and yeah, coffee. Second time.
The coffee theme. Yeah.
Second time as well was with coffee, and we had a chat, and she invited me down for some of her sessions or teachings or whatnot during the point of time. So, and the third time was also, I think, within the same year as well. We got into touch on through Facebook, and she actually invited me for one of her workshops just outside of Canterbury. And she actually covered on the 37 practices of the Bodhisattvas and the philosophy of the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. So, and we had a chat, and that was when I got a book, also contributed a donation to opening your heart to Bhutan. So yeah, there were the three scenarios. Third time lucky.
And I mean, the 37 practices of Bodhisattva, I still read it every day, and I think that text is amazing. So you remind me now of how many years I've been looking at that text and attempting to not just understand it but realize it properly. So yeah. Anyway, it's nice to see. Now you're in Singapore.
Yes.
And I'm back in England, not in Bhutan because of COVID. So we can meet once again.
Definitely. So first and foremost, I think to what is essential, would you like to tell us more about opening your heart to Bhutan, like how you came across this idea and being the founder itself, how the journey has been for this charity organization?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I never thought I'd found a charity. I don't think it was in my goals or plans, but I think when you find a situation that you feel really touches your heart, then when you've done quite a lot of practice, I think particularly in the aspect of compassion, then somehow the circumstances come that you get some determination to take some action, isn't it? And so those circumstances happened for me in southern Bhutan in a remote village, particularly meeting a young girl called Nakum there who had cerebral palsy. And it's very profound. It's just one of those very profound moments where you feel you have an insight into the difficulties of somebody else's life. And, having made so many prayers to wish that people are free from suffering, all beings are free from suffering, I thought, okay, let's try and do something about this now. Let's try and help, And it's been the most rewarding thing. It's just been incredible. And just have a chance to try and do your best to help others. I've just found it very important for me to act. I'm quite an energetic person, and it felt like the culmination of a lot of practice of mandala offerings and compassion practice, and it felt right to place that into action. And so we help many children with special needs with education and medicine and all kinds of different things, building schools and giving clean water and all kinds of things. And I think it gives one great sense of peace to know that you are really trying your best to help others. And I would encourage everybody to look around them and find something their heart connects with, to the extent that they think, oh, I'm not going to just watch this. I'm going to try and actively help, and it's very rewarding.
That's beautiful. And yes, I can only imagine the amount of work being put in for a project like this, especially in Bhutan. Not a very easy country to actually access to get into because of visa reasons and whatnot. So this charity is registered within the UK, right?
That's right. Yeah, it's a UK registered charity, but works exclusively in Bhutan, and we only have one paid member of staff, and all my time and even my flights I pay for all myself, so that anybody who donates really is not supporting the infrastructure of the charity. That's really people giving their time for free, and then all that money goes really to help on the ground. And that was really important to me, that it's the highest standards of the word charity. And so it was called Opening Your Heart to Bhutan because when you help others, it is about opening your heart. It is about expanding your heart. And so that's why I named the charity in that way. Yeah.
Yes, and align also to selfless compassion, a very fundamental teaching as well within Buddha Dharma. So for those of you who are tuning in as well, here is the name of the charity, Opening Your Heart to Bhutan. And also I'll be including links to her website and also to emails and contact points in the YouTube links and also on my Facebook and Instagram page as well. So yeah, and also the next thing as well is set free. And I actually there were two methods I used into reading this book, and I remember when I contributed the donation the third time we met, you actually gave me 2 copies of the book. So I presented it to a friend of mine at that point who was at the university, and I think we were meeting at Chocolate Cafe around that period, and I think within 2 days he devoured the book.
Oh, great.
And at that point of time also, the first method I used to use the book was I would actually browse or actually open a random chapter each time, the first time.
Oh, okay.
And the second time I actually read the whole thing consequentially in sequence. So that was a unique way of experiencing the book.
It is. But it is supposed to be read in sequence because it's a human story about ups and downs, changing points, dilemmas, decision moments. Do you go this way? Do you go that? So I think I have to say, I think it's best to read it in sequence, but each to their own. It's interesting that he devoured it in 2 days. People often say to me, wow, I started it and I just read it in like 6 hours, because it's quite moves at a pace, and I hope really involves people in some of the struggles of what it is to be human, and the decisions we make when we're faced with choice and difficulty.
Yeah, definitely. So as Emma has mentioned, do not follow the method I've used, which was the first method of randomly opening a chapter. Read it in sequence. There's 300 pages here, and I would like to just go through the brief moments. It mentions here a life-changing journey from banking to Buddhism in Bhutan, and it also goes through the early life of Emma at that point, and also being a a financial analyst in a banking institution, which later I found out was HSBC. And it's on a Wikipedia page as well, some of her biography, very lengthy as well. So it was during the trip in Jakarta in '97, was it? It was an encounter face front as well, which maybe she can share a bit more. But it was really very moving, and I think I can't even imagine the amount of ordeals, not only in 1997 but in the years after that. I think to be an ordained Buddhist nun and also having responsibilities of being a mother, of being in a different country, I can't imagine, but I think it only shows tremendous strength, and it only shows that anything is really achievable and possible if you put your mind to it and if you open your heart to it as well, which you are exemplifying by your example. So would you like to share with us what has led you into the Buddhist path and into writing this book?
Well, the end of that question is really easy. So I wrote the book to let people know about the charity, because when I founded the charity, I thought, okay, here's a charity. Nobody knows me. Not many people have been to Bhutan. How do I get people to join in and help me? How do I inspire people to think, hey, I'd quite like to be part of that. I'd like to help a little bit some child in Bhutan. And so the book was my honest telling of my life. Really opened my heart. Many things in the book nobody knew, or very few people knew, I thought if I speak openly and very honestly, share my story, maybe it'll touch something in other people. And then that will help the charity. And that's what's happened, luckily enough. And so this story is just, as I say, my human story. And it touches on my childhood, but not too much. So it touches on the feeling I had about Buddhism really from quite an early age. Here's the Buddha of my grandfather, isn't it, that I felt very strongly about from a young age, and is still with me now, But I think everybody has moments in their life which are difficult or unexpected. They come in and, where did that come from? And I think being held hostage by an unarmed gunman is definitely one of those moments, and so very difficult, very terrifying, and did take quite a long time to recover from. I think intense fear takes a long time to recover from. It sort of puts some very deep experience in your body, even in your physical body, But what it did give me was a kind of courage, because I didn't expect to live, right? I didn't expect to survive it. So when I did survive it, it did give me a kind of courage, and it did give me a sense that, okay, let's look properly at how you want to spend your time on this earth, and what would you like to know? What would you like to discover? And what would you like to contribute? And particularly around the feeling of kindness towards others. And because I felt a great deal of compassion for my assailant, strangely enough. And so I was particularly interested to discover if it's possible to expand through compassion into caring for others, even if they don't behave as we'd like them to, And so a lot of the story is about that growth in understanding, particularly practices of yoga, and then gently beginning to look at the nature of mind and meditation, and then obviously finding a teacher in Bhutan and going from there. So although it has events in it that maybe a lot of other people haven't experienced, I think we have all experienced moments which we didn't expect, which were shocking and made us rethink, what do we want to do with our human life?
Yes, definitely. I didn't know, even though I've met you during the three scenarios which I presented earlier, it was only on the third one when I started reading a book, and I didn't know before that the endeavor you went through. We have a lot of mutual friends within the Whitstable yoga community, but I didn't know about that. But until I read the book and was discussing with my friend at that point at university about the book as well, and we were just in amazement about this life story which you are still continuing till this day, and sharing the messages throughout the world. So one thing I was very interested about is your meeting with your lama or your guru. It also happened in a very mystical sort of way on a New Year's Eve at a particular hotel. Would you like to share with us a bit more about this karmic connection with the lama and how everything came in place?
Yeah, so again, it's a moment that you couldn't anticipate, right? It's not like an appointment. It's not like somebody I'd met on Facebook. And just a very incredible encounter, really. The first time I met the person who was to be my lama was high up in the Himalayan mountains in a place called Dochula, which is about 3,000 meters high in Bhutan. It's about 45 minutes outside the capital, Thimphu. And I wasn't seeking a teacher. I didn't feel I was seeking a teacher. Although I was very interested in meditation, and I was already formally a Buddhist at that point. I'd done quite a lot of practice already, but just as a lay person, just in jeans and still with, hair and things like this. Yeah. But when I walked into the temple at Dochula, there was a monk standing in the corner over there. And he really shone out to me. He just really shone out to me. And I thought, oh, I want to go and talk to you, And when I went to talk to him, the sound of his voice was really powerful. When he spoke to me, it was just like, this voice, I have to hear it. You know, this voice I need to hear, you know. And we ended up sitting down in the floor of the temple together, him and me, and talking about compassion. And I found myself saying that I wish to be a kind person. And it was a really, like I've said many things in my life I want to be, you know, I want to go on holiday, I want to, you know, I don't know, go to a party, I want to, you know, live in a nice place. I mean, you know, you say many things you want, right? But I'd never openly said I want to be a kind person. And I even felt like I was a little bit pretending at the time. But this wish came from somewhere in me, in his presence, you know. And I was a little bit taken aback, you know. And so something about being in his presence brought out these deep wishes in me. And I left the temple really feeling very changed. And then I had to leave Bhutan, but I couldn't forget his voice and the conversation that we'd had. You know, it was like imprinted in my brain, you know, like laser-like in my brain. And so then I had the chance to go back to Bhutan a few weeks later, and I went to try and find him. And just felt like unfinished business, you know. And then from there we met on the last day of that year, as you say, New Year's Eve. And although his English wasn't very good, you know, so not very easy. I mean, you can imagine, you know, Western woman, very enthusiastic, you know, Bhutanese lama, some English, quite reticent, you know, very quite strict, you know. So it's an interesting combination of humans meeting there, you know. And then on the New Year's Eve, he said, "Okay, I'll see you at 5 o'clock in the morning." I think it was 5 o'clock, 5 or 6, I don't know. It's pretty early. In the temple. I said, okay, right. So I didn't know what was going to happen, right? So, but I went to the temple that early morning, and he joined me. And then from there, he talked to me about the compassion teachings. We did some practice together. And then at the end of it, he said, "You're going to need these." And he handed me his mala beads, his prayer beads. And I think at that point, it was like, okay, you know, you're my teacher and I'm your student, and something is continuing here.
Very profound.
Mm.
Yes. And so, from what I've gathered, so since then, besides meeting in Bhutan as well, there's all these teachings and consultations through media, like the phone calls and all these things.
Not so much. Mainly, I've had all my teachings in person. A lama doesn't like to say anything profound over the phone or on Facebook. No, he likes you to meet in person and get taught in that way. And I think that's really wonderful.
Yeah, and I think your situation as well is also a very unique one. You know, it's just like in the times when Buddhism was making its way into Tibet, and when it established there, you know, there were many Tibetans at that point, or even Bhutanese or Nepali people at that point within the Himalayan kingdoms, who traveled often into India, you know, to receive these teachings as well, and then to bring back certain texts or to bring back certain teachings. And it's almost like similar to you in the sense of travel between, you know, England and Bhutan. You know, you go there for your commitments with the charity and so on, but essentially your guru or your lama is there as well, and you receive instruction. And there's this kind of closeness between guru and student, guru devotion as well. So to bring back the teachings and to allow it to ruminate and take its natural form, I think it's also a very, very unique situation as compared to certain other areas where the student is living in the monastery with the guru and all that. So I think it's a very interesting situation, and also to balance that with the time and effort with the charity, which is the Dharma practice, and also being a mother as well. Would you like to share with us a bit more about all
Yeah,
stuff?
so, well, first of all, I'd say I'm not sure I should be compared to people going back and forth from Tibet to India, but I think when you find a teacher who you feel so connected to, you really want to make that journey. It's not a trial. You know, you would do anything to make that journey, even for half an hour. You know, you would travel long distances just even for half an hour, because that's they have the precious thing that you wish to share. I don't know, it's hard to explain, but so I think sometimes it sounds like, oh my goodness, you know, you have to travel 8 hours or 10 hours or 2 days or whatever. It sounds like some kind of trial, but it's not. It's what your heart wants to do, you know. And so it's very joyful, you know, very joyful thing. It's a joyful journey. In terms of being a mother, yeah. So before I became a nun, I had a child. And that's why I was very surprised that my Lama instructed me to be a nun, because I thought, well, that's not a possibility, you know. But in some cases, it is a possibility. And in my case, it was allowed. I mean, being a mother is a really profound experience. And I think it has taught me many, many things which are very connected to Dharma and very connected to spiritual practice. When you have a child, you give away a lot of your sense of clinging to yourself. You really put this other being forward. You feed them, you care for them before your own wishes and needs. And that's a huge spiritual practice in its own right. And yeah, so I'm lucky that I have a lot of energy, that I try to do it, to try to do it all. But yeah, it's just like that, you know.
Beautiful. So yeah, I mean, you've been a nun for, was it since 2014? I can't remember the year.
End of 2012 was
I
when
know
I started to
2012.
live under vows. So that's like
9 years.
8.5. Yeah, something in that zone. So I'm vaguely getting used to it now.
Nice.
You know?
And when you go to Bhutan and do what you need to do, and when you come back to England, and you come back into Europe and Britain, how is your daily life like, being in England now? You know, if you like to share. I mean, there might be some viewers who have a lot of questions how you balance these things, and yeah.
Well, like you said, I've just been in a month retreat, and I think that what I'm realizing now, especially in this time of COVID, where I can't return to Bhutan very easily, right, is scheduling fixed periods of time in retreat is really important. So I have various weeks I've already allocated in my diary, just, you know, to retreat, to do intensive practice, because the tricky thing about being in the West and not being in a monastic condition is, of course, you know, other things come in, and many demands, and can be tricky to keep that discipline of kind of monastic practice. So that's what my plan is going forward. Well, what I've found is that practice brings out the best in me, and if I don't connect with it on a daily basis, it's not that things start going wrong, but I know I'm not doing what's best. So I practice every day, various prayers and meditations, etc. And I continue my study in classical Tibetan, trying to really understand the language of Dharma. And I enjoy that, although it's not that easy, but I have these very geeky moments where I'm just studying grammar and verbs and all this kind of stuff. And then I have certain philosophical texts to try to understand, which are very amazing and will take my whole life to even vaguely understand. So 37 practices of Bodhisattva, Gampopa, Lama, some Nagarjuna and Shantideva. These are main texts that I have to have a reasonable understanding of. So those are the three components from a practice point of view. And then, but I still have to function in the world. But the way I function in the world is in a like a kind of minimal way, So of course I have to eat and these kinds of things, right? But these activities, they don't take up a lot of time, I would say. They're just there to keep going, and practice is the main thing. And luckily, my son now, he's nearly 15, so he's pretty self-sufficient, and so that definitely makes things a little bit easier on that front. Yeah.
Yes, and according to your book here, you've also mentioned, and in also some of your interviews and talks, you've mentioned about being a high-flying analyst, and also a high-rolling, So you came from the at least in some segment of your adult life, you spent in a corporation, getting a good job and doing what needs to be done for self-sustenance, career advancement, and so on and so forth. How this immersing more in Buddhism and the Dharma practice, and eventually becoming a nun and taking ordination, how has that switch happened within yourself? Just like the experience of when you came across the experience of meeting your teacher, a switch turned on within you. So how would you say, being a layperson moving into monasticism, what are some of the things you actually experienced and realized in your journey so far?
Yeah, so I think we all have various, talents, whether you call it karmic or whatever, right? So when I was in a lay life and in that job, I was still quite analytical, still quite energetic. I like to ask questions. I like to, kind of understand things. That has not changed. But I think the motivation has changed. There's a genuine growth of a motivation that what you do is much kinder, much more, hopefully, to help a lot of beings, rather than just to really think about yourself all the time, So I think that's the big change. It's just that the talents you have now are applied really genuinely to try and help many beings, and also to tame the mind, to stabilize the mind, because in my career in finance, it's very go, 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 go. And, your mind goes up and down, and depending on what's happening around you and the markets and how your boss is, your mind goes. So I think I see, you're right, there are moments where these, significant changes happen, but I also see continuing themes, but the motivation changes.
That's something very important you've mentioned about, motivation, and our volitional actions, our intention, our aspiration, all linked with motivation. And you've also covered a lot about kindness, and through your books and interviews as well, this connection with Chain Rezik. So kindness, motivation, what are some other values you would like to see in this day and age besides kindness and the motivation?
I think that it takes courage to feel content. And there are many forces that encourage us not to feel content, to feel that we need more, or we must have this, and we must have that. That kind of breed a sense of discontent if we're not watching our mind carefully, So I would really encourage people to consider what they need in order to feel content. And then if they're lucky enough to have those basic conditions met, once they have a feeling of contentment, to really know that and see, right, when you're moving from a situation of feeling more content, what is it you wish to do then? If you're not coming from a discontent that you need more or whatever, what happens to your mind then? What do you decide to do with your time once you allow yourself to feel that sense of contentment? Not everybody obviously will be able to feel that, but from a teaching point of view, once we have our basic needs met, shelter and food, and we have a feeling of having been cared for, etc., these are basic human needs. Yeah, once they are largely met, then there's an opportunity then to really start to grow as a person and to develop your inner landscape and see how your inner landscape brings happiness or it doesn't bring happiness. So I would just encourage people to grasp that possibility, because I think we all want to know how to be happy, where happiness lies, isn't it? And we all wish to lead a meaningful life. And compassion and kindness is such a meaningful activity and brings, as I've said before, a great deal of sense of peace and how can you say that you have a meaningful role to play with others. That's very important to realize when you're born as a human.
Loving kindness, motivation, contentment, living life meaningfully. So yeah, a lot of profound examples you've shared, and we are coming towards the end of the segment. So I'd like to ask you also another transition which you are undergoing right now, coming out of retreat and doing this and doing other things. How is that? How has this experience been for you right now?
Yeah, I'm quite happy to be in retreat, I have to say. As I say, I need to block in. I have blocked in periods of retreat because I think it's so important. And it's fine. But when you're in retreat and you're doing your practice and you're reading your Dharma texts and you're really cultivating kindness for others, it feels very clean. It just feels very clean, And being in the world, it's hard to negotiate sometimes, things around, money and other people's expectations. It feels like it's hard to feel so clean somehow. I don't know, it sounds a really good way to say it, but to act skillfully in the world is really it's a big thing. It's a big challenge, So it feels fine. I'm just aware of the need to balance the time of being with others and then being just very quiet. It's important for me just to get that balance right. Yeah.
And also, the last thing I'd like to ask also, from now moving forward, any sort of continuation of aspirations in terms of, are there certain other lifetime goals you're looking to fulfill, or whether it's in regards to the charity or perhaps a new book on the horizon or any other venture for you in this lifetime?
No, I think mainly just to continue all those themes that I've established. I don't really want to establish any more themes right now, and just deepen my meditation practice. I'm 54, and I feel I have a great opportunity with my teachers in Bhutan, and the path of meditation is just huge and so profound, and I want to make sure I do my best in this lifetime to get along that path. So that's my main personal focus, but obviously all the charity things and very important, still carrying on with all of that. So, yeah.
Any new books on the horizon? Any new writings?
I would love to write a new book, and there may be one done in collaboration with someone. We'll have to wait and see. I will let you know if it's going to happen. I would love to write another book, but at the moment, I think my emphasis is more on practice. So you might have to be patient, which is one of the parameters, not the easiest parameter. But we may need some patience, I think. But hopefully, because, I think words, they construct our relative world, don't they? Well, I think words are incredibly powerful things. And if we can find inspiring words that really speak to our heart and pull out the best of us, then those kind of words I'd like to write some more of.
Definitely, and echoing the teachings by Shantideva in the Bodhisattva's way of life, patience being one of the fundamental virtues, in terms of its perseverance, in terms of overcoming anger, or rather transforming anger. Patience has been invaluable, so yes. So I'd like to thank you. By the way, do you prefer these days? Do you prefer being addressed as Emma, or do you prefer being addressed as Pema?
It doesn't worry me. It doesn't worry me. Sometimes in the West, mainly people call me Emma. In the East, they usually call me Annie Pema, and it really doesn't worry me. Luckily, Emma and Pema are really similar, right? So, it doesn't really. It's one letter difference, so I don't think we need to worry too much about it.
Nice. So yes, thank you so much for your time once again.
My pleasure.
This precious opportunity for you to share on this platform. May it benefit all beings who attune to it in any form at any point of time. And also, I wish you all the best and everyone associated with opening your heart to Bhutan. And I will include the links to your charity organization and your book as well. And any last words you'd like to say about your book or charity?
No, just if anybody is interested in the charity or donates to the charity, I do my absolute best to answer every email personally, because I really am touched if people want to help us or they make a donation. So there's not like some admin person somewhere automatically replying to your donation. If you make a donation, the message that comes through is written by me to thank you.
That's very wonderful. And yes, thank you so much for doing the show. And also, I was very happy to go through your biography again and revise on what I've known or do not know about you. And I mean, being the first woman, being ordained in Bhutan, I think it's immeasurable. And also, it goes down, in this history of humankind. And I hope it continues to inspire many more people to also live their hearts out fully and in an open-minded way as well. So, Pema Deki, thank you so much. Also known as Emma Slade.
Thank you.
So much blessings to you, and I'm sure we will meet each other at some capacity in this lifetime physically.
Yeah.
So for everyone tuning in, thank you, and once again, opening your heart to Bhutan and set free. And all the links will be included on the YouTube, Instagram, Facebook pages as well. And tune in, subscribe to the like button as well. There'll be more episodes coming up, and hope to have Pema Deki at some point again. Thank you.
Okay.